Welcome back to stage 4 of medical billing. So we're looking at claims, and in our first video of this stage, we reviewed how to submit claims for unscheduled patients. Then we moved on to the second video, which looked at submitting claims for scheduled patients. Now we're looking at submitting claims that are not covered under OHIP, but this time rather the patient is paying, also known as PP. So this can either go both ways. It could be a scenario where the patient has a scheduled appointment, but the patient is paying out of pocket, or it could be a scenario where the patient does not have an appointment, it's unscheduled, yet they still need to pay for their procedure because it is not covered under OHIP. So how do we go about that? Let's just keep it simple, and I'm not going to book an appointment for a patient. So we're going to pretend he or she has come in on an unscheduled appointment claim. So again, as usual, we would click or press Control B for our unscheduled claim, and we're going to search for the patient. And we will use our good friend Albert. So we will double check Albert's information. All his demographic information is correct. We are looking at the date of service, which is today. He walked in, he got a procedure completed. However, this time it is not covered under OHIP. So the procedure for this would not be coming from the schedule of benefits. Why? Because it's not covered under OHIP. So it would not be in a government website such as SOB or Section 4. And so how we would proceed with this, we would use the exclamation mark. The exclamation mark in Accuro is special because it brings up any claims that are not covered under OHIP. Now, these can be customizable by your own clinic using Accuro to see which kinds of uninsured procedures would be responsible of the patient to pay. So let's pretend we are going to choose one that is a basic visit where perhaps the OHIP card of the individual has expired, or it's an invalid OHIP card, and now we tell the patient that I'm sorry, but you need to pay out of pocket. And so this is the code that we would use here. So exclamation BOV is what we chose for that. And just to backtrack here, just to show you again, we did have two options for BOV. We had the basic visit, no or invalid OHIP for weekdays, and we had one for evenings or holidays. So let's just choose an example of weekdays. Now, of course, we cannot fiddle around with this. And the diagnosis, we leave blank. Why? Because there is no diagnosis for a procedure that the government is not being responsible for. And so there is no diagnosis code whenever it's a PP or a patient pays scenario. Next, we move along and we see OHIP, the insurer. So we do need to change this to PP, patient pays. Okay, and now once we are done, we see that this window comes up. It says that it is $65 and the amount paid is 0 so far. So we used to press save and close and the row would just appear here at the bottom. But because this is a patient pay scenario now, the computer stops us and says, hey, we need someone to pay here. You can't go anywhere. So this is where the customer or the patient now has to clear their balance. So as the MOA, we would notify them that the amount is $65 if they would prefer to pay the entire amount or separately, or how they would like to pay. If they pay for the entire $65, we can just click this arrow and it says the amount paid. What date are they paying for and how are they paying for it? So let's choose, just for an example, credit card, and we press OK. And that is done. That is complete. So now it shows that Albert has come in for this kind of a procedural, and there's no diagnosis code, and it has been charged $65 and it has been paid. So now how do we print an invoice for the patient in order for them to receive a receipt and go on their way? So the way to do this is to right-click on anywhere on the row of Albert. We right-click and we look for Generate. Under Generate, you will see Invoice. If we click on Invoice, we see a official receipt. So it has the doctor's demographic information. It has the patient's information here. And then it shows us the date of the service and the service that was completed and how much it was for. As we scroll down, it gives us some of the numbers of how it was charged, how much it was charged, and how much he or she has already paid. And so we can print this page, or I can close it right now. If I choose to close, it will ask me, would you like to save the invoice in the patient's chart? And this, it depends on the facility's procedures, but in this case, yes, I would like to and always perform this action. I would like to always include the invoice in the patient's chart. The reason I prefer to do so is if the patient calls the next day and says, I lost my receipt, can you please email or fax me another one? I can just quickly go into their chart and I can see the invoice that we had created for them and quickly print another one. And that is how we proceed with a claim that is not covered under OHIP. So just to do another example for you, again, if we click Control B to search for an unscheduled patient, we would choose Alex this time. And we will make sure this service was done today by the correct provider. And let's choose driver's medical examination, for example. That is also not covered under OHIP. And so we just slide along. There will not be a diagnosis code. And the amount is $100. Of course, we do need to change the insurer. And proceed, save and close. And there we go. Who's going to pay? Well, going to let the patient know. They're going to pay in full. And this time they're going to pay by cash or debit. And we are done. And now we need to print it, generate, invoice. And it shows that they have paid in cash and that there is no amount due. They have cleared their balance. And that is how we look at claims that the patient has paid themselves. Thank you.